So, it's no secret my feeling on CNN. CNN is awful, right? I mean, the mainstream media is terrible, right? Just awful. They continue to spin yarns, continue to spin lies. They are, of course, driven by, they spend their time defending the interests of the military-industrial complex. The relentless bombings of civilians around the world by the United States government. They don't want to call attention to the fact that any of these presidents are responsible for crimes against the rest of the world. 900 military bases around the world. CNN is the worst. CNN is run by billionaires, just like most of the other news organizations are, but they continue to prop up corporate billionaire interests as it relates to the military-industrial complex on a regular, continual basis. Look, CNN made its money off the Iraq War. CNN was established thanks to the Iraq War, right? That's how they really got put on the map, is thanks to war. So do you think for 1 second CNN is going to stand in the face of the military-industrial complex? No. In fact, they'll laugh at it. That's what CNN does. And good old Brian Stelter over there, who continues to put in ridiculous stories after ridiculous stories.
You're cracking me up.
Sorry, Brian, but it's true. So here is this happened yesterday on CNN, and Carl Bernstein, who I'm sure you probably know, Woodward and Bernstein. Carl Bernstein, of course, a great reporter from the Washington Post, who, along with Bob Woodward, uncovered the Watergate scandal and helped topple Richard Nixon as a result, uncovering what happened there. And a great reporter, okay? Carl Bernstein is. So he's on there talking about Donald Trump, and he said some things that are mostly true in many ways, but he kind of framed it wrong. But just watch CNN's response. Watch CNN's response to their guest calling the president a war criminal. Watch this.
I find myself, Carl, after a week full of Trump delusion headlines, wondering where we are heading as a country. Where do you see us heading?
Well, I think we need to slow down a bit and deconstruct some of the things that you've just laid out there. The first thing is I'm not a psychiatrist, and God knows all of us may have a degree of narcissism, but when we're talking about Trump, we're obviously talking about a kind of delusional madness, such as General Milley was talking about, that is on a scale and a scope that we have never experienced in an American president in our history. I think we need to calmly step back and maybe look at Trump in a different context. He is our own American war criminal, of a kind we've never experienced before.
You just said war criminal. What do you mean, war criminal?
I did. Well, in international law, there have been, quote, crimes against humanity. I think what we're talking about, Trump's crimes as an American war criminal in his own country that he has perpetrated upon our people, including the tens of thousands of people who died because of his homicidal negligence in the pandemic, putting his own electoral interests above the health of our people as they were slaughtered in this pandemic. Looking at his actions in terms of fomenting a coup to hold on to office in which the head of the American military, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has now compared Trump, not the press, not reporters comparing Trump to Hitler, but rather the head of the American military comparing him and his movement to brown shirts, to the Reichstag fire. This is a huge wake-up call to this country when General Milley, the head of the American military, has said this. And it fits as a piece with something so extraordinary in our history. It's not political. Trump is not just political. He transcends the political, and we need to start looking at his crimes in that context.
You're going to get heat for talking about war crimes because it's not as if the ICC is setting up a panel or anything.
The ICC, the International Criminal Court. You're going to get heat for that. You're going to get heat for that, for calling him a war criminal. I got news for you. And maybe I'll get heat for this. Every president since World War II has technically been a war criminal in the United States. See if YouTube takes me down for that. It's the truth. Trump increased drone bombings over Obama by 430%. So Bernstein is right. He's just right on the wrong point, I think. My take on this, when I saw this, was, talking about the Capitol riot is one thing. So fomenting a coup is one thing. But looking past and not mentioning, you have the opportunity there, Carl Bernstein, to lay out exactly what you're talking about, to lay out and point to these war crimes that you're talking about. Well, how about, we could talk about bombings in Yemen, bombings in Somalia, killing of innocent people.
Well, and just to be clear, so Bush started the drone program, Obama expanded it by over 400%, then Trump expanded it over 400%. And it is shown in a lot of research, but if you look at the data coming from those other countries, that 90+% of the people that die in those drone strikes are innocent people.
Innocent. And the very first attack that President Trump signed off on when he became president was the attack in Yemen, and it killed a 7-year-old girl.
And just so you know also,
with no congressional approval, by the way, that is a war crime.
Yeah,
under the International Criminal Court, that's a war crime. So you're calling him a war criminal. That's gone out the window
a long time ago.
Yeah, but you're calling him a war criminal, and that's accurate.
Yeah.
When you bomb countries indiscriminately, without congressional approval, by the way, okay, and you're killing innocent lives with no authorization, that is a crime against the world. That is a war crime under the definition. Why is the International Criminal Court not investigating those things? That's maybe the larger question. But the story is just that watching CNN, so to bring it back to CNN, watching CNN, I just can't believe he would say that he's a war crime. I can't. That's just a bridge too far, Carl. We can't. Look, we are the network here at CNN that supports war. Remember how many generals we have on our payroll? I'm just flabbergasted that you would call these guys war criminals. Come on now. Are we gonna start calling Biden a war criminal now here on CNN? We can't do that, Carl. What's the difference? I'll say it. When we in the United States spin the idea of bombing countries indiscriminately as protecting us or our soil or our interests, or being a force for good around the world, when you get the real stories out of these regions and you see how many innocent people are killed as a result of the amount of money we spend on our military and bombing around the world.
Well, and Obama officially assassinated 2 U.S. citizens without due process, Anwar al-Awlaki and his son Abraham, who was 13.
Yeah. And the argument was from the Obama administration on Abraham was his son, right? Oh, well, then he should have basically, he had bad parents.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. So when did we start just without congressional approval, without any approval, we can just start killing the children of bad people around the world? That's what we can do with no accountability?
And the kid was actually at a picnic with his friends looking for his father, who he had not yet realized was killed.
So, CNN just
that's
can't
a war crime.
handle. So CNN just can't handle. You're gonna get a lot of heat for this.
Not just political. He transcends the political, and we need to start looking at his crimes in that context.
You're going to get heat for talking about war crimes.
You're going to get heat for it because we can't touch that here. This is Reliable Sources. This is my show, Reliable Sources. I love the name, by the way, too. Reliable Sources. Where does your money come from at CNN? Where does your money come from? Maybe you should have a disclaimer at the very beginning that talks about the money that you guys get, where it comes from, why you can't tell the truth.
Because it's not as if the ICC is setting up a panel or anything.
Yeah, why aren't they? Maybe that's the question. Why is the International Criminal Court not looking more closely at the United States? Finally, the United States agreed to a UN review of crimes against humanity and civil rights abuses in the United States. Maybe we should. What do you think? Is it okay? Are we just sort of all brainwashed into thinking that it's okay the United States is allowed to indiscriminately bomb countries around the world?
Well, and everybody's like, but it keeps us safe because we're protecting ourselves from terrorists. But the thing is, Every bomb we drop that kills 90% innocent people, we create more terrorists. We're making us less safe with our foreign policy. But when you have $750 billion a year spent on military, we got to justify it every year.
Yeah, we got to, and this is the George W. Bush spin, right? They just, why do terrorists come after us? You know why? Bush used to say, they hate freedom.
Yeah, freedom.
They hate freedom. They hate our freedom.
I think Uruguay is more free than we are.
It's like, no, they don't hate our freedom. They hate us using our freedom as a cudgel and putting military bases in their backyard and killing their people indiscriminately. They hate our freedom. No, they don't hate our freedom. They hate when we kill innocent people. That's what we hate.
I have a relative who's in the Marine Corps, and he was talking about he's so messed up from his time over there, talking about how they would just stand on the outsides of cities, and if they saw people moving, they just shot in there. Just shot into cities, not knowing if it was a kid, not knowing who, what it was, just shot it. If it moved, they shot it.
Wow. Not surprised. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You can also become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, where you can stick it to the mainstream media and support independent journalism. We're able to bring you the stories that you won't see on any of the major billionaire-backed networks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time, everyone.